it's really clear to me when I have been at meetings of, scientific meetings about AIDS, that we're stuck in a rut. That there's a way that people do research that they don't question. They get funded to do the research that way, and I'm not saying they're bad people. Not at all. Okay, one researcher told me, if you think there's cutting-edge research here, meaning at the AIDS clinical trials groups, you're wrong. All the research here is mediocre. And it is. We desperately need something that will give us a window of opportunity, something that will get to the root of the structure and change it so that people, maybe some of the same people who are doing research now, have the opportunity to think unfettered by those institutional structures that prevent creative thinking. And, I'm a realist. I don't know whether in 5 years something that we created wouldn't be as institutional as it is now. But we'd have 5 years to try.
AIDS cure now. Science, not profit. AIDS cure now. Science, not profits. AIDS cure now. Science, not profit. AIDS cure now. Science, not profit. AIDS cure now. Science, not profit. AIDS cure now. Science, not profit.
Good morning. We're today announcing the introduction of the AIDS Cure Act, which will be introduced in the House of Representatives a little later today. It's time to put a stop to the business-as-usual attitude toward finding a cure for AIDS. That's what this bill that I'm introducing today is intended to do. As a presidential candidate, Bill Clinton promised that he would support a Manhattan Project to cure AIDS. He promised that such a project would be undertaken early in his presidency. My bill is an effort to remind him of that pledge and to redeem it. The bill would set up a Manhattan Project, or a project based on the Manhattan Project that developed the atomic bomb. The basic idea is to get many of the brightest scientists together in one research facility where ideas can cross-pollinate and cross-fertilize, and in which all efforts are directed toward one goal. In the Manhattan Project, because time was of the essence, simultaneously they pursued many different research avenues, some of which worked out, some of which did not. It is the goal of the AIDS Cure Project to recreate the same type of project. The National Institutes of Health has been directing AIDS research into all other AIDS and all other health research for many years. This project is designed to complement and supplement what they are doing. Unfortunately, the NIH, as with any bureaucracy, has developed a certain stodginess, and there's certain favored research paths which seem to get the funding, and eminent scientists who think that their research in other ways is worth pursuing suddenly are deemed by NIH not to be eminent scientists anymore and not to be worth funding. The idea of the AIDS Cure Project is that every pathway of research is worth funding, and every pathway of research should be pursued at the same time so that we can maximize the odds of developing a cure for AIDS as rapidly as possible. We are not saying that what the NIH is doing isn't welcome and worthwhile. At least I'm not saying that. It is, but we want to supplement it, and we want to pursue avenues of research and give funding to scientists who pursue avenues of research that have not found favor with the bureaucrats at the NIH. So that's what we're announcing today, the introduction of this bill, which we hope will be the beginning of the end for the AIDS epidemic. The statistics, obviously, are that AIDS has, since the early 1980s, more than 360,000 Americans have been documented as having AIDS. More than 220,000 people have died from AIDS-related causes in the little more than a decade, in the 12 or 13 years. Over 1 million people are known to be HIV positive today. This pandemic has got to be stopped as rapidly as possible, and the purpose of the introduction of the AIDS Cure Act is to do just that.
Let me give you a little history of how this came to be. During his campaign, Bob Ravsky confronted candidate Bill Clinton in an internationally reported event.
You're dying in this state. What are you going to do about AIDS?
Last night, a man with AIDS had heckled Clinton at a campaign appearance here.
Bill, we're not dying of AIDS as much as we are of 11 years of government neglect.
And that's why I'm running for president, to do something about it. I'll tell you what I would do. First of all, I would not just talk about it in campaign speeches. It would become a part of my obsession as president. There are 2 AIDS Commission reports gathering dust somewhere in the White House, presented by commissions appointed by a Republican president. There's some good recommendations in there. I would implement the recommendations of the AIDS Commissions. I would broaden the HIV definitions to include women and IV drug users for more research and development, treatment purposes. I would invest more money in the battle against AIDS. I would have some one person in charge of the battle against AIDS. I would also try to do what we did in Arkansas, which I think is pretty important. I would go into the schools with an aggressive effort in early childhood to educate children about the dangers of this, and I would fight to provide basic health services. In Arkansas, when we did that with my health director, Dr. Elders, people accused us of promoting promiscuity among our children. And we fought them off, and we had an election about it in 1990. And we made it a referendum, at least in part, on our determination to go into the schools and give our children the information they need to fight against disease and teen pregnancy and AIDS. This is not beanbag, this is life and death. And we've got to go into it. That's not true.
Without parental permission, you know it's true.
Now, will you just calm down? Now, you know,
You were dying, you will less calm yourself.
He's addressing you. Let him speak.
I'm listening.
let me tell you something. If I were dying of ambition, I wouldn't have stood up here and put up with all this crap I've put up with the last 6 months. I'm fighting to change this country. And let me tell you something else. You do not have the right to treat any human being, including me, with no respect because of what you're worried about. I did not cause it. I'm trying to do something about it. I have treated you and all the people who've interrupted my rallies with a hell of a lot more respect than you treated me. And it's time you started thinking about that. Now, I feel your pain. And I'm sick and tired of all these people who don't know me, know nothing about my life, know nothing about the battles I fought, know nothing about the life I've lived, make snotty-nosed remarks about how I haven't done anything in my life and it's all driven by ambition. That's bull. And I'm tired of it. I don't like it when Jerry Brown does it. I don't like it when the Republicans do it. And I don't like it when ACTA does it. I don't like it when anybody does it.
Bill, so you give a better speech than I do. Just deliver. That's all we ask.
No, I know you're not. I want you to live.
I came here tonight because I'm dying from AIDS. And it doesn't matter to me who the next president is if they don't change 11 years of government neglect of this epidemic.
And that led to a meeting that Bill Clinton had with a number of activists, including members of ACT UP. And it led to a pretty amazing AIDS platform that Clinton put out during his candidacy. And one sentence in that platform included the promise to implement a Manhattan Project to cure AIDS, period.
The purpose of this day is to remind us that our attitudes, behavior, and passion should be revved up in the other 364 days of the year.
You're so concerned about AIDS. Where's the Manhattan Project on AIDS that you promised during your campaign? 1 year, lots of talk, no action. 30 recommendations of the National Commission on AIDS go sitting on a shelf, gathering dust in your White House, Bill, why me and my community are dying in ever-increasing numbers, and all you do is talk. Talk is cheap, and we need action. You are hiding behind the quilt. You are doing nothing. Look at your record, Bill. 1 year, no results. The Manhattan Project on AIDS that you promised during the campaign, where is it? 30 recommendations of George Bush's Commission on AIDS. You promised to implement them during your campaign. Where are they? 1 year. Slick Willie, the Republicans were right. We should have never have trusted you. You are doing nothing. Why we die? You are sitting on your hands. Talk is cheap. We need action. It's time to put up or shut up, Bill. Put up or shut up. A Manhattan Project on AIDS. Research, we need it now.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right.
There was never any more talk of what that meant. There was no definition. There were just those words, Manhattan Project to Cure AIDS. What the hell that meant, nobody had any idea. So a working group of ACT UP New York sat down to say, what exactly would a Manhattan Project for AIDS look like? We studied the Manhattan Project. We wanted to get an idea of what ideas from that were usable, what ideas should be thrown out. And we came up with a proposal that was entitled the Barbara McClintock Project to Cure AIDS. I'll talk about Barbara in a few minutes. Later, the name, for reasons of clarity and because there was a boycott of McClintock products in California, was changed to the AIDS Cure Project because it was more direct. It is still inspired by the work of Barbara McClintock. This proposal was put out and disseminated widely across the country. And we ended up zapping Congressman Jerrold Nadler, who was speaking here in New York. That led to a meeting with Congressman Nadler, who read the proposal and agreed to sponsor legislation in Congress.
After 13 years of this crisis, there are not only no effective dramatic interventions medically, but there's also a serious lack of basic information about pathogenesis, about alternative treatments. We haven't studied long-term survivors. We don't understand what this disease is. At this time, the AIDS Cure Project is calling for a radical rethinking of our research efforts in this country. It's one of the most exciting attempts I've seen to change the direction of research away from greed and profit and towards saving lives. That's the bottom line. Until that day, there are a number of organizations like PWAC New York, Body Positive, and others that can help people with AIDS and HIV gain support and information from each other to live as well as we can. But we're alive today in spite of the government's research efforts, not because of it. And the AIDS Cure Project is calling for the government to help us in our fight for our lives.
This should be viewed, I think, as a gesture of hope, as a gesture of saying we want to broaden the approaches. We don't want to simply leave it to the NIH to find the cure for AIDS. We think that what they've done so far is inadequate, and we have to broaden the approach, take it away from sole control by the NIH so that all research avenues will be pursued. And we're asking that the research be broadened, that the approaches to finding a cure be broadened and not kept within some of the straitjackets they have been kept so far.
President Clinton, as you've been speaking, thousands of people across this country and around the world are dying of AIDS. During the campaign, you promised a Manhattan Project to cure AIDS. That Manhattan-style project is the AIDS Cure Project, detailed in the AIDS Cure Act introduced by Jerry Nadler in Congress. Why haven't you come out and supported that publicly? Have you read it? Why aren't you publicly supporting the AIDS Cure Act introduced by Jerrold Nadler? Answer the question. People are dying across this country and around the world, and you have not publicly come out and said that you support this plan. The only plan that will come up with a cure for AIDS. The NIH will never come up with a cure for AIDS, and you have not publicly come out and support this plan. It's the only plan that's viable, and it's in Congress right now as we speak. H.R.761, and it is not yet renamed, not yet renamed. How come you have not come out and publicly support this plan?
I'll be glad to talk to Mr. Nadler about that.
Have you read
Every time.
No, nobody's ever mentioned it to me before. But let me say this. I've listened to you. Will you listen to me? Will you listen to me? It is always convenient to me when you interrupt my meetings how often you ignore what has been done. The first AIDS czar, the first time we have ever had a really national strategy, dramatic increases in funding in research, dramatic increases in funding and funds to care for people with AIDS, dramatic increases in efforts to prevent AIDS from occurring. We are doing far more than has ever been done before. I would be happy. Listen to me. I listen to you. I let you interrupt this meeting and I let you talk, and you have taken up all the time of all the people that are in here. Now, no, you haven't. You're trying to interrupt me. They let me speak. They invited me here, not you.
Country, and you're doing nothing. People with AIDS are dying. The AIDS cure is in Congress, and you're not publicly supporting it, which is a crime.
13 years of failed research. AIDS cured now. 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 13 years of failed research. AIDS cure 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 now.
Well, the project has as one of its basic premises that any research that's done would have to be inclusive of all people with AIDS. And as we know, that covers the waterfront of every kind of person that exists. And I want to particularly say that is not, some people make a distinction between what they presume to be a scientific issue and what they think is a social issue. And they think that every time you ask for the inclusion of women and people of color, men and women of color, that you're talking about a social issue. And it's as if, well, they've been excluded and they should be included, and it's about discrimination and it's not about science. Well, of course it's about discrimination, but white male science is not science. If you're going to have science, it has to speak to the differences that you see. And one of the problems I see in AIDS research, which has been done on a very homogeneous population, is that AIDS manifests itself differently in different groups of people because of blood levels, because of the fact that women have a cervix and men don't. There have been many differences found in different people, and they are each part of the puzzle of how AIDS is caused and how it manifests itself, what you would call the pathogenesis of AIDS, that is the origin and the development of the illness. And if one part of that puzzle is missing, you may think you have the story, but you don't. So this is something I've been arguing with my colleagues in academia for years, and I've had to argue with the Centers for Disease Control about including infections to change the definition of AIDS, which is work we did some years ago, just to explain to them that white male science is not science, and that when you speak about including women or men and women of color, that you're not doing it simply as some abstract form of non-discrimination. You're doing it to do the best science possible and to make sure that you understand how this illness really manifests itself in the entire population affected. So I think that that's something that it's very important to understand, that it's not something that people throw in a cavalier fashion to sound like they're doing the right thing. One of the things that would need to be studied would be nutrition and general level of health care. And that would speak to, economic issues, which because of, in the United States, because of institutional racism, people of color are disproportionately represented amongst the poor. But there are a lot of poor white people, and they do not have good nutrition either. And so you have to keep those, keep that in mind. And they do not have good health care. And for instance, in one of the arguments we've been having with the National Institute of Health about all of the studies of perinatal transmission are that there have been studies that show that with good prenatal health care, the rate of transmission from a woman to a fetus is 15%. Without it, it's 30%. Now, most drugs are not going to dramatically reduce the transmission rate to the extent that good prenatal care would. But if that's true, and if the reason that some people are living when other people are not is about health care, then that tells you that what we don't need a drug, we need some health care. And health care is not necessarily a drug. And it may be nutrition, and it may be just generally watching, your health and having checkups and, leading a non-stressful life by having a decent job. I mean, I could get into the whole range of issues there, but what I'm saying is that one of the things that has consistently driven research has been to produce a drug. And you want to produce a drug because you're a drug company and you're supposed to make profits. Whether you think that they're the bad guys or not, under this economic system, they think they're entitled to a profit. And if so therefore, most research now is to prove an answer. And the answer is already there, it's a drug. Okay. If the answer weren't already there and you asked what would make this person live longer, the answer might not be a drug. But then it wouldn't make a profit. So in fact, most research is driven, and especially government-financed research, to find a drug. And that's one of the things that we hope the AIDS Cure Project will deal with, because it specifically is not about that being the answer that you already do research to find. It's really clear to me when I have been at meetings of, scientific meetings about AIDS, that we're stuck in a rut, that there's a way that people do research that they don't question. They get funded to do the research that way, and I'm not saying they're bad people, not at all. Okay, one researcher told me, if you think there's cutting-edge research here, meaning at the AIDS clinical trials groups, you're wrong. All the research here is mediocre. And it is. We desperately need something that will give us a window of opportunity, something that will get to the root of the structure and change it so that people, maybe some of the same people who are doing research now, have the opportunity to think unfettered by those institutional structures that prevent creative thinking. And, I'm a realist. I don't know whether in 5 years something that we created wouldn't be as institutional as it is now. But we'd have 5 years to try. And I think we have to go for it.
Failed research. Failed research. Get your failed research here. Failed research? Failed research. 13 years of it. Get your failed research here.
What's this? EA-124, never heard of that.
DDI, D4T.
What is EA-124? God, there's a lot of
DDC versus AZT.
Ooh, nucleoside analogs, battle it out.
Over and over again.
D4T, another nucleoside analog.
Excellent.
But wait, there's more. I got some more D4T.
Yeah,
randomized double-blind trial.
AZT combination therapies.
DDI all by itself.
D4T and DDI together. AZT, DDI, DDC.
Ooh. It's the nucleoside analog three-way. Oh, this is
not just one.
I love that.
Where's Mark?
to set the stage. What we're learning here today is who we're really sitting next to. And we look to our government, but they act like they don't know what to do. I've been listening to what's been given, and I can't stand no foolish attitudes about it. You cannot deny the priority of dealing with this disease, and you cannot go back on your responsibility to humanity. No, 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 no. When we sit around debating who's gay and who's black and whose lifestyle we don't approve, it exposes classism, racism, sexism, homophobia, and those things that never gotten us through. I've been listening to what's been given, and I can't stand no foolish attitudes about it. I wonder what would happen if we come together. See what happens when we come together. See what happens when we try. Come together. See what happens when we come together. Yeah. I've been listening to what's been given, and I can't stand no foolish attitudes about it. Ain't no way to talk about it. I've been listening to what's been given, and I can't stand no foolish attitudes about it. Come together. Come together. Come together. Come together. Come together. An original tune by Toshi Regan. Thank you very much. God bless and keep you strong.